is Kramer.
Welcome into the show. Hour number 2, 5 minutes after 7 o'clock. And it is Thursday, and what that means is free donuts for everybody, and Scott Major from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. For your free donut, you contact 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. You say to them, I'm calling in to get my free donut, and then they will give you directions. Good morning, Scott Major.
Hey, pal, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I have donuts in the studio today. These are 2-day-olds, but is it okay to eat a 2-day-old donut?
Absolutely.
See, these are, I just went back and got them. They're Krispy Kremes.
Ooh. Those are the ones that we had.
Yeah. They're not too hard. Anna, you want one? They're chocolate glazed.
I might stick it in the microwave.
Scott, what's going on with you, sir, and where do we begin today?
Well, it's been a great day and a great week. I think that more and more people are getting educated about the importance of taking action and handling their claims, and I'm very excited about that. And talking to more and more of the Panhandle residents, vendors, and other people. And I want to start today's discussion with an explanation of something called examinations under oath.
Okay.
What happens is the insurance company is entitled to complete their investigation by asking you questions. And that is to understand what support you have for your claims. And some people have heard of things like depositions, or they've heard of sworn statements. This is very much like that. You're essentially making a statement under oath that supports your claim. And what happens is the insurance company or its lawyer will reach out to you and set up a time, and oftentimes they'll do it by phone, sometimes in person, and they will ask you questions about, like, when was your claim made, and what is the documentation showing that you have the damages you have, and did you have any prior repairs made? What was the condition of the property prior to that? Do you have any documents that support what the condition of the property is prior to the storm versus after the storm? You know, what kinds of repairs did you not make that you knew existed before the storm? They'll ask you things about your windows or your doors or whatever's in your estimate. Ask you whether or not you know whether those items, were actually damaged. If so, do you have photographic evidence? They ask you all of the questions to be able to complete their investigation. And under the law, they're entitled to take this sworn statement under oath. And they can do this before any lawsuit is filed, whether you have a lawyer or not. It's part of their investigation, and it's part of your insurance policy. So if you are a person who is being questioned or going to have your statement taken, you want to make sure that you're fully prepared, conversational, and that you answer the questions that are asked of you. They don't usually badger you or make a big deal of it, but they need to get the support. I often encourage people that if you're going to get to that point, that you get a lawyer involved to help you, but you don't have to have a lawyer in order to defend these things. They'll often also ask you for a list of documents. And you need to pay attention to that, because sometimes they'll ask you for documents which are reasonable, and sometimes they'll ask you for documents which aren't so reasonable. I've had cases where, with a condo association, for example, where they've asked for every maintenance record that the condo's ever had in the last 20 years.
Oh, my God.
They asked for every minute, all the boards of directors meeting minutes on every issue they've ever had. They asked for a list of every repair ever made. And obviously, we have condos that are decades old. That would be a bit overbroad, being very kind about that statement. And you need to understand what documents are going to be fully responsive and what aren't. When insurance companies ask you to do certain things, that there's a cooperation clause that comes into play in Florida. So you have a duty to cooperate with the insurance company within reason. If you cooperate within reason, you give them the information, then they cannot deny your claim based on your failure to cooperate. But if you don't respond to them, or if they ask you for information and you don't provide a written or thorough explanation, then the insurance company may later on be able to actually say to you, we're not going to pay your claim because you failed to cooperate. You failed to honor the terms and conditions of the property. One of the other things involves also mitigation. If you have a giant hole in your roof and you didn't put a tarp on and water is coming in and you're not taking any steps to stop that and it creates other damage to the property, it would make sense to all of us that you can't claim it's the insurance company's fault. Now, there's one exception to that, and that is if the insurance company unreasonably fails to come out and help you fix your problems after you've made an attempt to mitigate, then they may be responsible. But that goes back to the things you and I have talked about in terms of the letter writing campaign and how much detail you have put them on notice about in terms of getting your repairs made immediately and quickly. A lot of times I'm getting questions from condominium associations, churches, large organizations, individuals, residents, and businesses that, hey, I've given the claim to my public adjuster and I have no idea what the status is, and they've had it for 1 or 6 or 8 months, or I did an assignment of benefits and I have no idea what the status of the claim is. It's important for you as the listener to make sure you know exactly what the status of your claim is until and unless you've gotten it to a lawyer. So you can write to the adjuster and say, please write me and just tell me the status of my claim. Tell me all the phone calls you've made or the stuff that you have done up until the time of this correspondence that I'm writing you, so that I can get a better understanding. Sometimes phone calls will be exchanged back and forth between the adjuster or a vendor and the insurance company. You may not know that the claim is processing, but they're waiting back and forth for time. When we're in month 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it's so very important for you, if you don't already have a lawyer, to put enough pressure on the insurance company to make sure you know either the claim is not going to be paid for a specific reason, and then I know what that reason is. And that's either in the insurance policy or some other bona fide reason, or I need to be taking legal action to pursue this, because if every day that you wait and you don't engage your lawyer is another day that they could potentially delay without consequence. You could have the greatest public adjuster in the world or the greatest vendor in the world, but what is the incentive for the insurance company to pay if that vendor or that public adjuster has already gotten them his detailed, wonderful estimate that they promised you, and the insurance company still hasn't paid? So we have to try to create these levers. It's unfortunate. I don't want to bash anybody by saying this, but what matters to me is the individuals, companies, the people that are listening on the phone. What matters to me is the people in the neighboring counties that don't even have this intel because they don't have your radio show or they don't have me talking, and millions, tens of millions, it's going to be billions of dollars are not being paid in a timely way because either people don't know what to do or they're trusting other people that can't put the leverage on the insurance companies in now month 9 going into month 10.
If an insurance company said, hey, we need to ask you some questions, we need to give you an examination under oath. Okay, well, where do I go? When do I need to be there?
Exactly.
I'm going to go there. I'm going to answer those questions, and I don't have any problem telling you the truth, because if that's what it takes for us to get this thing moving, do whatever you got to do. But my question to you, though, about that, and you kind of danced on this, but like, what are some of the more ridiculous requests from an insurance company? In other words, you go along with up until what point? They want to get you over here. They want pictures. They want you to sign this. But when does it get to the point where, okay, you guys are just jacking around with me right now?
Yeah, I think that I'll give you some examples, and I'll tell you some ways to handle it with the insurance company. Some examples include, I want every tax return you filed in the last 10 years. Ugh. Some examples include, I want every single receipt of every single contents that you've ever bought in your house that you're making a claim for now, that you couldn't possibly have every single receipt for. They'll ask you for every single claim you've ever filed against an insurance company for any reason whatsoever, whether it's a car insurance or any other insurance. They'll ask your criminal records and your background. They'll ask for, like I said, in the condo associations, documents from years and years ago of every single repair you've ever made, even if you just fixed your sidewalk for $150. So there are claims. Sometimes it's a cut and paste. Sometimes the insurance company is using the same form over and over again. I've oftentimes seen letters that ask for all the board of director meeting minutes, and it's an individual homeowner. You know, I mean, you see stuff like that. Now, in terms of what you need, think about it just like you're thinking about it. Practically speaking, what documents do we think are important or necessary that if we were on the other side, we would demand, that we would want to make sure that I wasn't getting a fraudulent insurance claim, or somebody wasn't trying to fake a claim or to create damage by using the storm as a weapon to recover all of their money. What kinds of things would I need? And you think common sense wise, the documentation, any correspondence, photographs, you know, any types of interactions you've had with vendors, you know, that might show any estimates you've got. Think about the common sense things, you know, that you've had, that if you were on the other side, you think would be reasonable to prove that you're actually making a valid claim and that you have the proper documents. And so most of this is really common sense in terms of if you were an insurance company listener and somebody said to you, my property's damaged, okay, well, it makes sense that your property could be damaged, but we want to make sure that you didn't already have broken windows, or you didn't already have a roof that was so dilapidated that it was damaged and needed to be replaced, and your roofer was about to come out to replace it, and then heard about the storm and didn't come out and replace it, and then your roof got blown off, even though it needed to be replaced anyway because it was 43 years old. So you need to pay attention to the common sense things, and those are usually the things that carry the day. What I do with insurance companies is if there is a request, which I believe is not reasonable, I'll oftentimes say, you know, dear insurance company, I've received this request. I'm producing, you know, items 1 through 12, but I don't understand why you need my criminal records or why you need my tax returns for the last 30 years. Please kindly in writing explain the reasons why you need this data so I can better formulate whether or not it makes sense for me to provide it to you. And they'll either write you back or they won't. And if they do, and they provide a really good reason, well, we looked you up and we found out you made 6 claims and you filed bankruptcy last year, so maybe you have a motive to make up a claim. Okay, great. Here's my tax return for the last 3 years. Look, I don't actually care. You know, so the concept is you can learn more, but the point is you need to make a documentary trail so that you can show that either the insurance company is asking for unreasonable things, which is part of that bad faith statute in 624, 155, 1B1, or alternatively, you give them a chance to say, oh, no, you know, yes, we'll just take the 11 items or the 10 items you gave us. That's more than enough information, you know, and we can proceed. So it's using some common sense. It's documenting that they have all the things. And that's why, one last point on this, I always say to people, make sure you have a letter in your file that says, you know, hey, insurance company, if there's anything else that you need, please write me within the next 2 days and let me know what those things are. Love and kisses, you. Because if you do that, then you've got a documentary trail that maybe there is something out there that they either told you or think they told you, or maybe they confuse you with another client, and they need it and they want to process your claim.
Yeah, anything you can do to accommodate them so that they can, you know, hurry it up, I'm all about. I think, but once it gets to, we've heard so many stories about them asking for ridiculous things, or them sitting on their hands and waiting and not returning messages or phone calls. So I would assume that that's part of the game. Scott Major is with us. If you want to get on the air, we got some calls. Mark, I'll get to you next. We'll let you on the air with Scott. 233-9988, the phone number to get on the air. If you want to write a number down and contact them off the air, Scott Major, Major Parúas, and the Storm Help Team, 844-800-LAWS. More to come.
This is the Kramer Show on NewsTalk at 101.
Scott Major from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. Hello. Is it Daddy you're looking for? Let's go to Mark Adams. Mark, you are up with Scott Major. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I want to preface what I got to say by, thinking and letting you know it's a wonderful thing that you got this format that's been long-lasting and educating people. And secondly, I don't have a dog in the hunt. I was lucky enough not to have any damage from the hurricane, but family, friends, customers, and so I'm experiencing it like that. My comment is this: why is it that you're spending all this money on insurance, and when there is a claim, your insurance companies turn single moms and dads with kids and people trying to make a living into contractors and lawyers, when truthfully, since they're taking your money, and I think by far they're the richest company in the world. I mean, Zuckerberg doesn't come close to what these insurance companies are holding. Why is it that burden is put on the homeowners and the policyholders when truthfully, like when you get your car wrecked, you take it to a body shop and you pick it up when it's done, you got complaints, you call your insurance company. It needs to be turned around where the insurance company becomes a contractor, fixes your house by law, take them statues, throw them away. They ought to have a certain amount of time to have your house fixed or put you up till it is, tell you when you're moving in, and that ought to be the end of it. Something's just back-asswards here. I mean, it's a horrible situation. It'll water your eyes when you see what people are going through.
Well, that's the $10 billion question. And, you know, we've gone around and around about that. And I think Mark has put it eloquently and summed it up in a very succinct way. And really, what is the answer?
Well, the answer is that it is a tragedy. And we've seen a nightmare that some insurance companies have engaged in this kind of profit over people mentality, and that they have refused to pay otherwise valid claims. The reason why this exists is the very nature of the lobbying entities that the insurance industry has allows them to draft certain laws and to politic against having stronger language in their policies that would mandate that they would do certain things. Having said that, Florida does have a lot of wonderful protections, and a lot of people who weren't paid could have gotten paid sooner or could have gotten more reward had they, for example, called us on the phone and we had proceeded with their case in November or December and filed suit then because the defendant, didn't pay or wasn't being honorable. So yes, there is a process, and that process can appear to be onerous and unfair, and they can take advantage of you if you want, but the remedy can be very penal to the insurance company if you proceed forward. We're in a system that, unfortunately, the way our legislature works and the way our Congress works, bigger entities can have input on how, certain laws are prescribed, but we do have protections, and the best way to stop insurance companies from doing what they're doing is to essentially gang up as a group and to hold them to the feet to the fire and to give them the consequence that makes them say, hey, you need to have a higher integrity quotient. You need to make sure that if you don't pay, we'll be suing every one of you. And the amount of money, the hundreds of millions of dollars you will pay in attorney's fees and other penalties will promote better conduct. It's unfortunate that profits sometimes can tend to skew people. Having said that, there's a lot of people, though, that don't do their job in terms of getting the proper documentation or the proper professionals. It is not the insurance company's responsibility to somehow understand whether or not your property was damaged prior to the storm or whether you're really telling the truth. They put the burden on you because there is a good reason for that, and that is you are the person purportedly with the most knowledge. While I don't agree with the delays in payment, and it upsets me, and I'm sure you guys have heard me on the radio, how angry and passionate I am about this, we do have a fundamental burden in that if your car is wrecked, you do need to demonstrate that somebody hit it, or you do need to demonstrate that the damage was not caused solely by you, and then it will be repaired in accordance with certain rules and regulations. Having said that, with your property, I can't emphasize enough, you have to give all the data to the insurance company. If you don't know what data that you need to give to the insurance company, you have to call somebody who you have confidence in that can tell you what data you need to give, and then you need to give it to the insurance company. And if they don't respond, then you need to use the laws which help you that will punish the insurance companies if they engage in bad faith or malicious conduct. And so it's a balancing arm, but I think more claims can be paid, and I think we can deter much more of this conduct if we can get people like me to stand on soapboxes or to file lawsuits or to proceed with bad things when insurance companies don't honor their requests, and then they will pay. And the proof's in the pudding. I get phone calls all the time with clients that I have where before I even get into litigation, they're like, we know who you are. What is it that you want? And I'm saddened I had to get involved, but they oftentimes will say, we're just missing X or Y or Z. Or we have your estimated conflicts with ours, and provided us a better explanation as to why images are documented. Can you do that? And it's not the insurance company's death level adjuster's first priority to pick up a phone and call you when they have 200 claims that they're handling, and they're trying to just push paper through to get as many claims responded as possible. It's the early bird gets the worm. You know, there's an expression, he who wants milk should not sit him down in the pasture and wait for the cow to back up to him. I mean, you have to move forward and aggressively pursue your claim.
More with Scott Major coming up. Stand by. 7:33. Scott Major joins us this morning. Scott Major from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. Over the months, we've talked about every facet of insurance known to man and then some. We have talked about different things within that, meaning things that you have to look out after. One of those being water remediation. That's that. And another thing I want to ask you about is when we did the show about the types of insurance that you need to have, which I think was fantastic. You know, what are in this area, wind versus, what am I thinking, flood insurance?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. There are two types of insurance, and one is flood insurance, which is generally for water that intrudes from below the ground, around the ground, or above the ground, but not from the air. That is flood waters that come in. And the other is, hurricane or wind or typical homeowners insurance that generally covers the events that cause damage to your home from other types of things. In reality, if you want to be specific, you actually have homeowners insurance for condominium insurance, and then you add a wind rider, you add wind onto it, as opposed to just calling it wind coverage, because you can actually buy insurance and not buy wind coverage, or not buy the coverage that is affected by hurricane-type force winds. But generally speaking, most people buy insurance that includes that. And so if you have a flood, because it rains really hard, that's going to be covered by a flood insurance claim. Or if the lake overflows or other types of problems, then you're going to have a flood-based claim versus the typical insurance claims that we've talked about, where you have wind and rain creating problems for the consumer, the holder of the insurance policy. And so you need to have both insurance available to you, because there's just as much a likelihood in some areas that you'll have flood than others. If you have an elevated piece of property and you have a threshold for flood, you may have a less need for as much flood insurance, but you cannot recover, from a rainstorm. Let's say Hurricane Michael created so much water that the water flooded your property and came up into your house. That would be a flood claim. That would not be a hurricane claim.
Do some phones. 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988. Vicky, you're up with Scott Major. Go ahead, Vicky.
Hi. I have a big question. We with American Integrity, and they're canceling our policy, our whole policy, and they're saying that everything's been closed out. All they did is they took care of the dwelling itself, but then they have not paid us for contents of the home, nor loss of use. And believe me, there was a lot for contents of home.
So let me take.
So now they're just canceling us.
Sure. First of all, if you have an insurance policy, then unless you've committed fraud or done some sort of horrible act, the only thing the insurance company could do is choose not to renew you. There's a difference between canceling and not renewing. And after your contract term ends. Okay, if they're canceling you, then they need to provide an explanation why. For example, maybe, I'm just making it up, you committed fraud, you did something horrible, but if you didn't, then they can't cancel your insurance and refuse to pay you what you're entitled to be paid. So regardless of whether they try to cancel you or not, unless the cancellation is due to some wrongful act on your part, they still have to pay you all the insurance money. So if you still have outstanding amounts of money due, you should immediately contact a lawyer and get that lawyer to help you to get the remaining amount of money that you're absolutely entitled to get. You will likely damage.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. So I will be obtaining a lawyer. You don't happen to know any good ones, do you?
Yeah, there's a couple out there that are pretty good. There's no lawyer who's better with donuts than me. Okay, so keep that in mind when making your decision.
Do you litigate?
Probably you won't meet a guy who litigates more than I do. So, my job is...
Awesome. You got it. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll get a number from you. I'll look it up. And yes, I'll go ahead and do that.
844-800-LAWS. That's the number. 844-800-LAWS.
It's really easy to remember, Vicki. 844-800-LAWS.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And by the way, so Scott, we talked about you and your litigation. You kind of thrive under that. It seems like, it's not that you want to do that or that that's your motive. I mean, your motive is not to do that, right? Because when it gets to that level, you're talking about more time. So the goal isn't to go to litigation. The goal is to keep you out of court, I would assume, so that we can get things moving. It's fair and it's quicker. Is that correct? That's
exactly right. You don't want to have to litigate if you don't have to, because while it might make the lawyer a few more dollars, I want to get you your money. That's the whole key. We want to get you your money. But I will tell you, from having worked on the insurance side, if you have people like me on board who are not afraid to litigate claims and have trial experience, what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to recognize that you're not some fly-by-night operation, or you're not somebody who just dabbles in that claim. You're somebody who's going to take them to the mat. I don't know how many other people have actual judgments against insurance companies ordering them to pay me attorney's fees for the wrongful acts they've done. I don't know how many other people have actually gotten insurance companies to pay bad faith amounts of money to lawyers. I don't know how many people have taken hundreds of depositions, in these kinds of cases. So what you want to do is get somebody who's got the experience, who understands that, because the insurance company and those lawyers are going to take you more seriously. It's just a reality. You're on the insurance company side. You don't want to lose. You don't want some precedent out there that you got tagged for a big amount of money. So you're going to pay attention to somebody who's well prepared, who gives all the documentation, and who says, listen, I want to settle, but if you're not going to settle with me, I am going to sue you, and I am going to take you down. Hope I don't have to do that, but if you saddle me up, you better suit up.
Yeah, so and it was interesting talking to you and Brian when Brian was here, and you guys have a system, and it's not, and you don't come out of the gate going, yeah, you sons of bitches, we're going to sue. You don't come out of the gate like that. Brian, tries to call up the desk level adjuster, start a relationship, and kind of unclogging that whole process with honey. It's not like you're trying to do that. But if an insurance company keeps at it and it's bad faith, or they're asking you for ridiculous amounts of things, and it's obvious that they're not going to do it, or if they say that this wasn't covered when it actually was covered and you got the pop, then you start putting that into motion. You say, look, we're going to go all the way with this, and we're not going to back off. And if it happens to get to that point, you'll do it, but that's not the goal.
Absolutely. The goal, and people need to understand this, the goal is to get you your money. The goal is to get you your money as soon as we can. The goal is to get you your money as soon as we can and get a vendor to be able to get out there and fix your property so you can move on with your life. And it's extremely important for you to pay attention to that and to find somebody who's going to go towards that goal. Brian is one of the best negotiators I know. He gets on the phone with the insurance adjusters. He's probably spoken to 1,000 of them. And he talks to them and says, listen, You don't want me to sick major on them. Listen, you just want me to, let's tell me what the problem is. Tell me why you're not paying. Let's try to get this resolved quickly. Sometimes they pay immediately. Sometimes they don't. Our clients will tell you that there are many cases where they just say, we're not going to pay, we're not going to pay, we're not going to pay, and then we provide them with additional documentation. We file up a suit, or we get a suit ready and say, don't make a sue, and they say, okay, we're going to pay. We have a claim where they were basically not paying, and they end up paying like $450,000 the entire policy limits. Why didn't they do that when the insured called up? Why didn't they do that when the public adjuster was there? Well, they didn't do that because they just didn't feel motivated. And whether you think that's nefarious or whether you think there's something wrong with that, the bottom line is that what we do is we try to provide the greatest motivators to get you the money the fastest. But if we have to go to court, we will. And we will take out the opponent if that's necessary.
Yeah, I think there's a part of you that really enjoys that, and I think because you're good at it, you know what I mean. I think
right.
I think and listening to you describe that whole situation, and it really, by the way, and I've said this before on the show, and I'm from here, and so I understand the mentality behind. I mean, once we get an attorney involved, and it has to, I mean, we're getting serious. That's a very it's a very intimidating process or thought that you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to get Scott Major. And now, but you should not look at it that way. I mean, it's been over 8 months and nothing has happened for some of you.
It's your condo, it's your home, it's your life.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm saying is, it's way beyond you saying, well, I don't want to not be nice. Okay, well, you don't have to be mean, and you don't have to be aggressive, and that's one reason why it would feel to me taking the pressure off yourself to call somebody like Scott and get them on the case. That way, you're not so emotionally tied to it anymore, right? You can just kind of ease up. And we were just talking the other day about how people here have all this added pressure on them because they want to get back and get on with their lives. But you're having to deal with all these other things that are using up your time during the day. So you got to look at it from both an emotional standpoint and a time situation. You don't have any more time to sit around and let the insurance companies push you around. I know that sounds like an advertisement or whatever, but based on what I hear from callers and listeners when I'm out, that's their point. That's what they tell me. I'm just kind of mirroring back what everybody tells me because I'm naturally inquisitive about talking to people about it.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think it's very important for people to understand that, listen, I've been on this radio for 9 months or since week 2 of the storm or however long afterwards, and we've been talking about this a long time. You're not going to meet a more genuine person. You're going to be a person who cares more about getting a result for people. I mean, the concept is you need to get somebody who's going to fight for you, especially in an area that you're not an expert in. Okay, you're not going to perform your own eye surgery, or you're not going to have your orthopedic surgeon do your eye repair. You're going to get the best eye surgeon in the country. Why not get someone who can help you to understand these nuances, decrypt these policies, and get your money? I hope it's just a phone call. I hope it's just the insurance company immediately calling. But it's enough. We're 9 months into this, and there are thousands of homes still not fully repaired. I mean, we need to stand up and fight. We need to do something about this. And I'm telling you, whether it's me or somebody like me, you want to have somebody in your corner that you can sleep the sleep of angels, knowing that we're going to get you every dollar we possibly can in the nicest way or in the not so nicest way.
If you want to hop on the air and you want to ask Scott a question, you want to tell him your situation and see what he says about it, it's totally free. All you got to do is call 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988. Also, to get Scott to show up and speak to your neighborhood, speak to the condo board, to speak to a group of community people from your community, to get something like that together, call him and set that up. That's something that he does, and that's something that he thrives at because he likes to do it and he likes to talk to people about and help people. And that phone number is 844-800-LAWS. I'm gonna call you today because there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about off the air. But one of the things that I want to do, and you and I had a very cursory conversation about this, very brief, is to talk about getting yourself legally prepared in case of a storm. Because of Michael, we look back and we see, and I was talking about it on the air the other day, we see where we were weak, personally.
Right.
You know, we didn't have this in a safe, we didn't have cash, we didn't have this buttoned up and this tied up, and we didn't have our insurance looked at, and we didn't go to the insurance agent and make sure that there are things like that. And what I want to start doing is, once a month, I'm going to start having a show in our atrium here at the radio station, and I'm going to have a guest, and what I want to do is have you here and then invite people into the atrium to meet you one-on-one, live on the air, and ask you questions about those types of things. And if we have to have a 2-hour show, I'm totally down with that.
Great. I think it'd be awesome, and I think people need to understand how to prepare right now, what kind of insurance they should be getting. Should they renew their policy or shop it elsewhere? What kind of insurance can they eliminate or reduce? Where should they stack up on more insurance? You know, what kind of different coverages can they have? Can they add certain insurance for specialty items that they have in or around their home or condominium? And these are critical things that people need to understand are available to them, and they can be shocked. You know, maybe it's just even finding some new agents. Whatever it is, it's finding quality people to protect what is your biggest asset, your home.
Yes, and I think that goes in a lot of directions when you're talking the legal. And let's say that, here it is June the 27th, and let's say that we knew that another hurricane Category 5 was coming at the end of August. If we knew that, then what would we do to get ourselves in legal order before it happened? I think that it would be an amazing show, and I think it's one that we absolutely should have. Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that, like I said, I think getting people more and more educated, as we've done over these months, has been hugely important to people. And also putting a face on the fact that there are people out there that genuinely care. I can't tell you how many dozens or hundreds of questions I answer that I'm not taking over the case. I'm not making a dollar. I've donated more time to this cause than you would ever imagine.
Phones are open for you. We're going to take a break. And Scott Major's with us, 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988. Also, stormhelpteam.org is the website. We'll be back. NewsTalk at 101. Be happy, everybody. Scott Major with us today. Scott Major from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. Yes, my love. Taking your phone calls. Hey, you're up with Scott Major. Good morning. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, it's Jim. I have a question. Reference policies.
Hello, Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I didn't know it was on there, right? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What do they mean when they say they'll probably settle up your policy limits?
What that means is that they will pay up to the amount of the maximum policy, limits. That is the maximum amount of dollars that are under any particular coverage. So, for example, if you have your coverage A covers your structures, which are like your roof, your foundation, windows. So if they say we're going to pay up to the limits, and that's $200,000, that means they're going to pay up to $200,000. Now, I don't know if that means, depending on what they're saying, whether that means they're actually going to pay you $200,000 or they're going to pay you something less than that. It depends on what the letters say, but it just means that they're going to pay you up to the maximum limits of your policy. And I would write them back and say, great, please write me the check for the limits or explain to me why it is you're not going to do that. Love and kisses you.
Right. One other real quick question. Is there any avenue available for, I guess you'd have to go to court to make them pay for stress-induced whatever which they've caused over the last 8 months, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, if it's found that they've acted in bad faith, then you can get not only up to triple the damages, but you can get emotional distress and other stressful things that's determined in an amount of whatever a jury thinks is reasonable.
Okay, super. Appreciate it, Scott. Thanks.
Hey, have a great day, pal.
You too.
Thank you, man. 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988, stormhelpteam.org. So, so we should do that show. We should do the show where we get Scott in, and I'll call it, like I said, I'll call you off the air today, and we'll get that set up. And if you need to contact Mr. Scott Major or Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team, 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS.
Kramer, before we depart, a quick question for you. Do you think that the stuff that we're doing now is still helping a lot of the residents, and helping them to educate? Do you think that our shows are doing a good job of helping those people?
I honestly, I say this often, and I'm not BSing. Every time I'm out and we start talking about the hurricane, your name always comes up. So whatever it is that you're doing, that you've been doing for the past 8.5 months, it is cutting through. And I think I think you touch on a lot of different things within the whole process. And I think that's really, of course, to answer your question, I absolutely think it's very helpful. And if I felt like it wasn't, and I felt like, what we're doing didn't mean a hill of beans to anybody, I would be shouting it, you don't know me. I would be shouting it to everybody. And I would say, we got to end this because it's not working, or it's not helpful. It's not helping anybody. That is certainly absolutely not the case. I hear it all over the place. No, I think we continue to do it, and I think I think you could do this all on your own without me. Is the sad part.
Nobody can do anything without Kramer.
No, man, I love you to death, and I thank you for being on, and thank you for all you do. You always tell me thank you for what you do to the community, but no, I thank you right back. And to give the number out for Scott Major one more time, 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. Scott, have a great rest of your day and enjoy yourself, my friend.
Hey, man, thanks for all you do for the community. Have a great day, and you be well.
You would do the same. Thank you. There he goes. Scott Major, Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team.